Uh, and hello, everybody. You're very welcome to our admissions presentation today. So my name is Laura. I'm one of the admissions managers at the school, and I'm also joined by my colleague, Richard Murphy. So as Amanda
Hello.
said, hi, Richard. And as Amanda said, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, do pop them into the Q&A and we'll answer them. And hopefully the presentation will answer a lot of the questions you might have as well. So this is just the agenda we'll be following today. So we'll talk to you just a little bit about the school, the MSc programs available, how to apply, and then we'll answer all your questions at the end. So just a little bit about the Smurfit Business School. So we're Ireland's leading and top-ranked business school. So we're based in Dublin in Ireland. At the school, we do have over 20 MSc programs. They range from accounting, marketing, management, business analytics, and there's a suite of management programs as well. So there's lots of there to choose from. They are full-time programs that are 1 year long, and we only have one intake every year. So every year our MSc programs start in September. We do have a global alumni network of over 100,000 alumni who have done our MSc programs over the years. And at Smurfit, we do have a dedicated careers team. So our careers team are there to help you, decide what type of job you'd like to do after your MSc program, look for jobs, apply for interviews as well, and network with companies. So we do have a careers team that look after all our MSc programs if you do study with us here at Smurfit. And we do also have our global leadership program. So this is an extracurricular program that you can do whilst you're a student at Smurfit. And we always recommend students to get involved as much as they can when they're at the school. So this program would allow you to do that. And we'll talk about it a little bit later on in our presentation as well. So as I mentioned, we are part of UCD, which is a top 1% university in the world. And at the Smurfit School, our programs are consistently ranked within the QS rankings and the full-time rankings as well. So these are just some of them to note, but on our website, you'll see kind of our different rankings. We are Triple Crown accredited as well, which means we're in the top 1% of business schools too. So, we are a very ranked school, and we're recognised worldwide as well. And as I mentioned, we are part of UCD, but we do have a separate campus. So our campus is based in Blackrock in Dublin. So it's about 3 kilometres from the main UCD Belfield campus. But the Smurfit School is for our MSc students. So if you're doing a master's programme or an MBA programme, you'd be based at the Smurfit School, and that's where your lectures would happen. And there's a library and there's accommodation both on the Belfield and the Smurfit School campus as well. So just to be aware, our campus is separate to the main UCD campus, but we're still part of UCD. And it's just that the business school, so the master programmes are held at the Smurfit School campus. And I mentioned already, we do have a careers team here at Smurfit. So when you're picking a master's, it's really important to think about the type of jobs, careers you'd like to do after the master program. And these are just some of our top employers that we have here at the school. And we're based in Dublin in Ireland. So a lot of these companies are based in Dublin, very close by the school. It is important when you are picking your masters to think about your job afterwards, the type of companies you'd like to work for. And we do have a careers team here, and we'll have a presentation later on from our careers team, but they offer a lot of supports to our students when you're applying for jobs, networking with companies as well. So it is important to really think about your career when you're choosing your master program and the type of companies you'd like to work for after. And then just another part of Smurfit is our Global Leadership Programme. So this is an extracurricular programme that students can take while studying your Masters. And we will have a talk from Peter Conlon, who manages this programme here at the school. And so we definitely recommend to log into that webinar as well to find out more about the programme. But it is an extracurricular programme that focuses on leadership, your workplace skills, and then career planning as well. And it's a way of getting involved in the school and knowing what's going on as well. And it's a really good program as well to think about planning your career and what you want to do after your masters as well. So we would definitely recommend, if you're studying with us, to look at maybe partaking in this program as a student. So that's just a little bit then about the Smurfit Business School. And now we're going to go on to the MSc programs. So as I mentioned, there are 20 MSc programs, over 20 at the school. So they're all listed here. And this is a really good starting point if you're not too sure what you'd like to study at the school. So what this chart does is it kind of breaks down the programs and then the eligibility. So what you're studying in your undergrad and, if you'd be eligible to study at the school. What's really interesting about our school is that you don't necessarily have to have a business undergrad to study a lot of the MSc programs. So over 60% of our students don't come from a business background. So for example, any of the marketing programs, you don't have to study business to be eligible to apply for those programs. It's just important that, you research what you want to do in terms of your career and what knowledge you need from your master program. So there are lots of opportunities there for you if you haven't studied business. And I suppose just looking through the programs there, so we have two accounting, we have five finance, we've a suite of management programs. So from food business to our SEMS international management program, we have consulting programs, project management. So there's lots there to choose from. And then we have an array of marketing programs too. So it is important when you're thinking about your masters, the first thing to do is to think about your job. So you nearly work backwards. So you need to think about what you'd like to do in terms of your job, and then look at what masters will be the best option then for you to get to that job. And then when you've done that, you also need to look at what exactly you're going to study. So is the what knowledge you're going to get from these programs as well. And then looking at then the eligibility. So do you have the undergrad program that will be eligible for this master's as well? So it's really important to, make sure you research the program. And our website's really, it's really comprehensive in terms of each of the programs will be broken down on what you're going to study. So there's 3 semesters in most of our MSc programs. So it'll break down the semesters, the modules, what exactly you're going to study in each of the modules. It also goes into details if there's project work or if it's an assignment or an exam. So there's lots of information there for you to research exactly what you're going to learn on these MSc programs. But it's really important to take the time and think about what you want to do as well in terms of your career, because that's really how you pick a master's, is you think about what job you'd like to do and then you work back to see which master's is the best option for you. But it's really a unique point with our school is that, you don't have to have that business undergrad to be eligible for a lot of the programs. So make sure you take the time to research what you want to do, research your program, and then hopefully you'll be able to then, see then if you want to do a master's with us here at the school. And once you've done all that, it's then time to apply. So we are taking applications at the moment for September 2026. So as I mentioned, we only have one intake every year. So it's September every year is our intake for our MSc programs, and they're 1 year full-time programs. There are options to do part-time, and we have 2 online programs as well, but majority of the masters will be full-time 1 year. And there's 3 semesters within that year as well. So the main thing, as I've said before, is just make sure that you've researched your program and you have an idea of what you'd like to do. And then once you've done that research, you can submit your application online. So you can apply directly through the UCD Smurfit website. So when you are applying, it's just important to make sure that you have all the documents that we need. So we need your official academic transcript. So they're the subjects that you've studied and your grades as well. And we need an up-to-date CV. If you are applying and you need an English language test, you can actually apply without the English language test, and then we would set it as a condition after. So you don't need your English language test before you apply. You can apply without that. The main things we need are the transcripts and your CV. So with your transcripts, if you're in final year, we just need your transcripts to date. So if you're in 4th year, we'd need 1st, 2nd and 3rd year, the modules and the grades that you have. So it's okay to apply before you finish your undergrad degree, because we can look at the grades that you've gotten already, but we do need to see all the years that you've studied already, and an up-to-date CV. Now there is 2 references on our MSc programs. So the references, you can give the details of the referees, or you can upload references in the additional files. And your reference can be academic, so it could be from your lecturers or your professors. It can be from work experience or internships, or you can have two references from internships, or you can have 2 from academics. It doesn't have to be one academic, one non-academic. So with your references, you can give the details, or else if you have a written reference, you can just upload them to additional files. And then there is 2 essay questions on our application. So these questions are really about you to try and think about why you're applying to this master program and why we should choose you. So it is a time on the application where you can really tell us, why you want to do this master program, and, to show the motivation you have for this master's. And then the other part of the question is, where do you see yourself, in 5 years' time after completing the master's? So that's the part that I was saying is when you're researching, that'll help you answer that question, because you'll have thought about your job and your career after the master program too. And that is the application then completed, and you have to then submit it. So there is an application fee of €70 when you submit the application. If you are studying in UCD, your undergrad, it is free to apply, so you don't need to pay that application fee. And once you've submitted it, then it comes to the admissions team. So Richard and I are on the admissions team, so it will come to us and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. It normally kind of can take over 2 to 3 weeks, just depending on the time of the year. And we have received a high volume of applications, but we do get back to everybody and we'll let you know as well. And you can log in at any time to your application and see the status of it. But there is, a wait time at the moment for applications, but we do get back to everybody. And if you did have any questions throughout the application process, you can contact the admissions team at smurfit.admissions@ucd.ie. That's our direct email, and you can let us know if you have any questions in regards to the application process. And I know everybody is submitting questions at the moment, and these are kind of some of the ones that we've been receiving too. But if you do have any questions, do post them in the Q&A, and I know Richard's been answering them there too, and we'll have a talk really after this and go through them all as well. But I think one of the questions that we actually got asked already today is about applying for more than one course. So we had the list of over the 20 programs at the school. So yeah, you can apply for more than one program. We do recommend, researching them and making sure that you know what you want to do. So we wouldn't recommend applying for more than 2 or 3 programs. You don't have to pay an additional application fee. It all comes under the same fee. But we would say, like, if you're looking at the marketing programs, there's 4 of them. You can apply for 1 or 2 of them, but we wouldn't recommend applying for more than 3. You can also preference what's your first, second preference on your application as well. But to answer the question, you can apply for more than one program under the same application fee. However, we'd recommend only applying for 2 or 3 programs if you are, thinking of kind of maybe a specific area of business. In terms of then, when should you apply? So we are open for applications for September 2026. So we're only taking applications for September 2026. So once you have kind of made up your mind what MSc you want to study, we would say try and apply as soon as you can. It's done on a rolling basis, so there is no deadlines to apply. So it's making just sure you get your application in early, so then we can get back to you then. In terms of scholarships, so there are scholarships available at the school, and they're listed on our website, but we are currently just updating the scholarships at the moment, so they will be opening soon. But they are on our website and they'll be all open in the coming weeks. So you'll be able to see them in a few weeks' time. They're on the website, but a lot of them you don't need to apply for. Once you get an offer or a conditional offer from us, and you accept it, you're automatically considered for a lot of the applications for scholarships. There are a few that you'd need to make separate applications for, such as Aspire and the Global Excellence Scholarship as well. So then just in terms of accepting your place, so if you do get an offer or a conditional offer, you do have to accept it and pay a non-refundable deposit. But what happens is we will send you an email with all the details on how to do this. And as I was saying, you can log in at any time to your application and to see what the status is. In terms of then closing the applications, we don't have a closing date, so they're done on a rolling basis. So that's why we say make sure to apply early so that you don't miss out on a space. So we've opened since October 1st, and we have seen kind of a high demand for our MSc program. So once you know what program you'd like to apply for, we would say, make an application as soon as you have decided. The status then of the application. So as I mentioned, so once you submit the application, you can log back into the application and see your status. So we will get back to you, and normally what we'll do is we'll update the status so you'll be able to see that. And then we'll also send you an email about the next steps as well. Just to go over the documents then, because this is quite an important part of the application. So we do need your official transcripts. So these are official transcripts from your university. They have to have the subjects you've studied and your grades. We also need a CV and references. And just to note again that you don't need your English language test before you apply to the school. So if you have it booked for January, February, that's absolutely fine. You can apply now without it. And then just the entry criteria. So we did show all the MSc programs and the eligibility chart. So that's just a guideline. It's a starting point, but each program has very specific entry criteria. So if you have a program in mind, you can go into the website and it'll tell you what exactly the entry criteria is, because a lot of the programs have different entry criteria depending on the masters that you're looking at. And that is actually the end of our admissions presentation. So I just leave the email there. It's smurfit.admissions@ucd.ie. So that's our direct email if you have any kind of questions after this webinar. But what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of go through questions that we've received during the webinar and hopefully answer them. And then if you do have any additional questions after, that's our direct email there. So I'm going to hand over to Richard now.
Thanks, Laura. So, questions been flying in. So, well done, everyone. Keep them coming. Otherwise, I'm just sitting here doing nothing. So, look, I think there's a few that are kind of marked I'll answer live. But just one I do want to stress, it's come up today, but it also comes up quite regularly with regards to English language tests. If you happen to be an international student, depending on which program you go for, there are different requirements for English language levels and tests, but it's all available on our website. But just one thing that is a common misconception is that you need to have had your English language test completed before you apply. And even sometimes the same with your degree, but that's not the case, because usually those are two things that we need to assess, but we can make those a conditional offer. So we give you a condition that you must get a certain grade in your final score for your degree, and that also that you must meet the minimum entry requirements for English language test. So these can, you can send these on usually by sort of next summer at the latest. So just remember that if you are considering applying, or if you have applied and you're waiting to take your test as well. Okay, so just some of the questions, I'll just sort of in no particular order, so do bear with me. Please keep firing them in. I think just Siobhan there has asked, and there was a few other people online there looking about aviation finance. Siobhan just asked sort of two good questions actually, but one was in relation to this particular course and asking that it is a little bit on the niche side. It is. It's one that we were the very first people in the world to put on this program because of the level of aviation finance and leasing that happens through Ireland, as we're world leaders in this. Now, do you need to have focused experience in aviation? Not at all. The same across all of our finance programs. What we look for is that you have quantitative skills. So are you good at kind of maths and stats and kind of have that kind of quantitative brain? So that's one thing that we look for extra. We have people coming from engineering backgrounds. We have aviation, engineers and mechanics that switch over into the business side. We've got business people coming up into it. We've had, I think, doctors and even someone from the arts have kind of gone into the program. But really what we're looking for is that you're strongly motivated to work in this sector. So when you, for example, are making an application, and this is kind of a bit more general advice as well, what we really look for, myself and certainly Laura and the admissions team, is that in your essays, you demonstrate to us as to why you want to do this course and how it's going to fit your career. So what is it, and maybe about the modules in the particular program that that attracts you to it? How's that going to help your career? Kind of using Laura's advice, which is look at your career first and then kind of see how this program is going to fit that. So explain that to us. Explain to us that you've done your research. So that's kind of one thing we look for. Motivation and leadership will be another thing. So in particular to aviation finance, Siobhan, what we're looking for are you to demonstrate that you maybe are coming from a different background, but you want to get into this because you're aware that it's very high starting salaries. That's obviously an attraction, but also that, it's a very interesting sector and one of the fastest growing in the world. So, not going to write your essays for you, but there's some tips. So the quick answer is no, you don't need to have finance or even aviation experience for the program, but just make an application anyway, and we can assess it for it there. The second sort of follow-up question that Siobhan had, which I think is quite useful for everyone, which is that our applications assessed only after both references are received. Now, slightly tricky because it can depend on the program. Certainly, aviation finance would be a very sought after program. For example, SEMS, International Management, that we run as well, our highest ranked program, that would also be very prestigious and looked after. So, we generally need to have the references in place. And the system allows you to do two ways. One is that you put the email for your referee in, and the system fires out an email, and they put in the reference into the system, and only at that point does it show it complete for us. Or the second option, which is that you should have, or if you do have, PDFs from perhaps a previous employer or from your educational institute, you can actually attach those as a document into the document section instead. So to be honest, if you have them already, that's what I would probably advise. But I would say, having said all that, and I don't think I'm on, I think I'm on various webinars and quite public about this as well. So I'm not changing my answer here, but we don't put a huge amount of emphasis on the references. And honestly, the reason why is because we get tens of thousands of applications here, so we can't verify every single one. And generally, what happens is you'll get someone who will write you the best reference in the world. So, to be honest with you, we're looking more at your essays. We're looking at all the other things that you need to apply with, like obviously your grades. Do they match up? Your motivation? Can we see leadership skills? Things like that. So, hopefully that's helped answer those questions. There was a question on the Global Leadership Program, which basically was, well, what is it? I think Laura just kind of touched on it there, and there is a great presentation that's happening straight after this. I think it's actually at 2:45, so do tune in for that one. Led by Peter Conlon, who's the GLP, which Global Leadership Program lead on it, or the head on it. So he'd be the best person to talk to you more about that. So definitely tune in. But in a sentence, as Laura mentioned, oh no, I won't tell you exactly what it is. Tune in for later. But I will say this: you would be absolutely crazy to not do it if you get a place in Smurfit. To be honest with you, it's something that employers look at and they see it, and it kind of everyone who comes to Smurfit is going to be naturally very strong. You're in a great pool from international students and our students from around the world who are just really strong. So this does help elevate yourself even more than maybe some of your peers in Smurfit, along with being very fulfilling and sort of self-growing for yourself as well for boosting your career. So definitely look at the GLP. Laura, feel free to dive in here as well because I'm doing a little bit of talking as I kind of reading. I think we'd answer some other ones that are a bit more specific. Look, generally just I think one about deadlines or application sort of speeds. It can vary depending on which region you're applying for. So, for example, Asia would be probably one of the highest growth areas that we have, and we get a lot of applications at certain times. So sometimes it can take 4 to 8 weeks, whereas generally we say our average is sort of 2 to 3 weeks. Domestic students, Irish students probably are a little bit quicker. It depends a little bit on the region and the volume that are coming at a particular time. So we never try to give too much of a hard answer. However, I would say if you feel that it's either taking too long or if you think that there's an issue, please email us at smurfit.admissions and we'll look into it specifically or direct you to the individual admissions manager. So for myself, for example, I look after our European and North American students. Laura generally looks after our Irish students, but we have a team of other people who would be specific to wherever region you're applying for. So that allows us to give a bit more sort of personalized information.
And we
Okay,
just have a
so
question
Laura,
as
yeah,
well
go for
about
it.
GMATs. So
Yes.
GMATs aren't required for the MSc programs. There may be an occasion where we would ask a student to do a GMAT, but that would be on a case-to-case basis, more so for finance programs. But no, it wouldn't. You wouldn't need a GMAT to apply. It would only be in certain instance, maybe the quantitative part for one of the finance programs. But no, we don't need GMATs. And for our SEMS International Management program, you wouldn't need a GMAT either.
Yeah, I'm going to just add one small piece of info on that because sometimes people ask, well, why? Because a lot of very top schools like ourselves would require GMAT, and the simple answer is that we find that a lot of GMAT scores are heavily influenced by the quantitative part to it. So that's why we might ask for it if you're doing a finance program. But for example, if you're coming to our SEMS International Management, one thing that separates our SEMS out from others is that it's actually very practical. It's much more real world. You're involved more with industry, and that's kind of the way that we teach. So if you're a very quantitative student, you could do well, but what we look for are people who are more well-rounded, maybe who are more creative, innovative thinkers, want to think outside the box. And that's kind of why we don't use the GMAT, to be honest with you, as much as we used to. It's becoming a bit of a trend, and I think it allows us to choose a little bit more on a level playing field with many others. Now, that's also an advantage to many people because studying for GMAT costs a lot of money and is also quite difficult, and particularly to get a very high score. So, if you're considering, for example, our SEMS International Management, which is very highly ranked, you don't need to do a GMAT for that. So, yeah, one small advantage if you're interested. Laura, was there any other questions that kind of jumped out at you there? I'm just kind of quick check, and we've probably got about 3 or 4 minutes left. So if anyone wants to add any further questions in, please do. Let me
Probably
see.
just to clarify just the references again.
Mhm.
So yeah, so we are the business school. So what we require is two references. So they can be academic or internship. They don't have to be written, but you can have them written, or else you can provide the referee details as well. But I think there's been a few questions about references, but yeah, we do require two. But again, they don't need to be written. You
Oh,
can just give the
actually,
details.
again, on that, actually, Laura, not to contradict you at all.
Yeah.
Some programs have it as mandatory. I know Victoria, I think, has added a question there about saying, and some programs don't have them as mandatory. So
Yeah.
you can see that, and you might be able to submit without them. There's 25 different masters, so I won't tell you exactly which ones they are and they aren't. But generally, it's good sort of best practice to have two references anyway as a backup. I think just maybe just two quick questions Laura might go for. There's a
Yeah.
question here about age limits. No, obviously we don't have age limits, but when we do have someone who maybe has more experience who is applying, what we might be trying to do there is see if you could be a better fit for our MBA program. So it depends on where you are in your career. Like for example, aviation finance, we would have a lot of people who are switching careers, who, like I mentioned, are coming from, maybe 10 or 15 years as an aircraft mechanic, but actually see the benefits to going towards finance. So, obviously they could be in mid-30s going for that, and that makes sense. But if you're maybe looking at a more general management program, perhaps then we might steer towards the MBA because that might be slightly better suited. So, the quick answer, no, not at all. I think this year we have a 50-something-year-old. I don't want to give their ages away, but we have quite a decent breadth of ages and demographics on our programs, which is great because our diversity is brilliant here in Smurfit. So I think there might be some stats online about sort of average ages, but reach out to us if you have any further questions. One last one, international business, just quite specific about it, but it says, do any extra skills or certificates required for it? Generally, for international business, we are trying to see that you have a little bit of a business background. So you don't need to have come from a pure business program, but perhaps you've got maybe a little internship or a bit of experience or just sort of more knowledge maybe than someone who's had no experience at all. So that might be something. Now again, I don't want to be very prescriptive or turn you away. We do encourage everyone to apply, and then we'll make it a full assessment on it. And generally from us, it's never directly a no. We always try to sort of say no. Perhaps you could look at this course, or you could do this maybe for next year if that's something you wanted to consider as well. So I think we're pretty much out of time, Laura. So if there's any
Yeah, I think
final question, go for
we
it.
have one final question, and then but it's just about online programs. So we do have two online programs. So it's management online and project management online. So they're the only online programs that we have in terms of masters. And the other programs are all on campus lectures. So yes, we do
We
have two
we
online
do have
programs.
executive development side
Yeah.
who do more traditional sort of part-time online ones as well. So do look into them.
Yeah. And I think that's all our questions. So thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope that you found the webinar beneficial. And if you have any other questions, our email is smurfit.admissions@ucd.ie. And hopefully we'll see all your applications soon as well. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Bye.